Welcome to this video that's introducing you to my foundations of meditation. We're going to begin with a guided meditation. And so if you're just starting this video, you can go ahead and get a comfortable seat and you'll hear the sound of my singing bowl soon. Engage with the sound of the singing bowl and whatever residual reverberations come after the sound. As you do this, deepen your breath, allowing your inhales to be full, a kind of embrace of the present moment. Allow your exhales to be easy and complete. A kind of surrender to the present moment. With each inhale, embracing the offering of the now. And with each exhale, releasing any urge to try to control the present moment, to fix it or make it better. Now, I want you to find a place in your physical body where you can rest your attention, like a center point inside of you. Don't worry about getting this wrong or choosing the wrong place. This is just for the next few minutes of the exercise. And envision an orb of light there, like our sun at the center of our solar system. For today's meditation, this is the center of your experience. Now continue with what we were doing, breathing in a way that embraces the reality of the now. And releases any attempts to make the now different than it is. Envisioning or maybe even really feeling the breath going in and out of an orb of light inside of you. When the mind starts to take you away from this exercise or starts to create an extra dialogue about the exercise or how you're doing in it, drop your energy back down into the orb of light, into that physical space inside, and let the thoughts do whatever they're going to do. You're just not going to give them your energy. You're too busy cultivating the energy in this orb. Notice whatever you notice. There may be images arising, or sensory or emotional experiences. It's all perfect. Don't try to change it. Just stay with this simple exercise for another minute or so. Centering yourself inside. Feeling how, as this orb at the center of you begins to collect your energy, that the inner experience slowly over time begins to harmonize, even out. Take a moment to bring your hands together in front of your heart and just very gently bow the head. Just a very simple, organic way to honor what we've just done and to seal our practice. Beautiful. So we have a few more people who joined us. Welcome, everyone. And thank you for sitting with me for that opening meditation. That was about a 8 minute meditation that we just did together, just so you have a sense of that. And if you're newer to meditation, then the longer sessions can be challenging. But the way that I like to introduce meditation, and something that we'll talk about a little bit today, is it's nice to start with shorter ones, especially as we're just beginning and getting comfortable with sitting. So if that was challenging in any way, no problem. We can talk about that during the Q&A, or I may end up addressing it in my talk. So for those of you who missed just the first couple minutes before we began, um, this is an introduction to meditation in general, and particularly my style of meditation. And we're doing practices today that uh, I designed specifically with the solstice in mind this time of year. And I'm just going to give a little talk here now And then I'm going to open it up to you guys to share a little bit about what you're doing here and to be seen and heard, and then to ask me any questions that you have. If anything comes up that you just really need answered right away, or you need to run or something like that, you can type into the chat box. I know if you're on your phone, that I think that's a little more challenging, but most of us you can just type a little thing in there and I'll see it. Okay. So my thing, my entire life has really been a deep dedication to truth, to reality, to the way of things. And all along the way of pursuing truth, I've found myself in lots of different contexts, lots of different spaces, and I have enjoyed watching all kinds of different people engage with the truth of reality in all sorts of different ways. Along the way, I discovered for myself this extremely powerful practice of seated meditation. And I learned really quickly that whatever spaces I was going to be hanging out in, whatever practices I ended up using and utilizing on my journey, whatever lineages or traditions I ended up subscribing to or stepping forth with, no matter what I did, if I didn't have the meditation piece, I just wasn't going to be able to really find my way via my own inner compass. Now, what is meditation? Meditation, there's a lot of different definitions of meditation that you'll stumble across, uh, and what I mean by meditation is a seated practice, a practice where we are physically still, and then we engage in exercises in order to also bring the mental body and the emotional body and the energy body also into a sense of stillness. And sometimes I will substitute the word harmony or integrity instead of stillness, because truly life is sort of always moving. The issue is less so that life becomes still than that we learn how to engage in life in a way where our energy patterns, our experiences are in flow and harmony with life, rather than going against the energy of life. But stillness as a word works as well. It's a word that I do use a lot. And something does come to a place where it feels very still, very peaceful, very quiet once we get our inner experience to become sort of harmonious. Now, I also believe that meditation is not the only practice that we need. And the exercises, the inner practices that we do once we sit down, right? I said, what is meditation? We sit down and we do some practices inside. Those inside practices, of course, I could be doing at any time while I'm moving around, right? I could be in the kitchen making dinner and bringing my attention into an orb of light inside, or just paying attention to the way that I'm breathing in and out. And I would, in a sense, be doing my meditation practice, my interior meditation practice, while out in the external world. And I think that's not just important, I think that's invaluable, actually, to be able to take what we do in our seated practice and bring it into the rest of our life. Those of you who have worked with me know that I also teach physical movement practices like yoga and qigong. I'm also a big fan of just any kind of exercise, dancing, swimming, running. I also am someone who's a huge advocate for creative practices. That's a big part of the work, is using our own intellect and imagination and creative energy um, to explore reality and to share about what we learn. Um, there are other practices, right? So the physical practices, the creative practices, and of course the sort of inquiry, intellectual practices that I offer. So we are complex, multidimensional beings, and so I believe that meditation must be paired with all the other things that make us whole and human. But there is something really vital about having the capacity to sit still and to be with ourselves. And that is really at the heart of what I help people with. Those of you who are considering or enrolled in the 20-day challenge, that's what we're going to be focusing on, is getting you to a place where by the end of 20 days, you feel comfortable just sitting down, being with yourself. You have a sense of what kind of exercises you can draw on that will accomplish this, at least some sense of that stillness or harmony inside. And this begins to drop us into a sense of what we really are in a world where, boy, are there just a lot of opportunities to mistake what we are, to believe that we are only as valuable as our productivity or our material resources, to believe that we're only as valuable or only as worthy as the external validation that we're receiving from the outside. And so this is why it is really important to, I believe, at least once a day, do nothing, to be with just yourself. Because if I am making dinner and I could still be doing my meditation practice, there's still a part of me that's clocking, you are making something out here in this external world, and that's making you valuable. If I go out for a swim in that lake, maybe not today, it's like in the high 40s, but if I go out swimming in that lake and I'm doing my internal practice, which I absolutely think it's so valuable to be doing an internal practice when we're doing an external practice, but still some part of me is patting myself on the back for doing this external thing. Something really profound begins to shift, however, when we learn that we are innately valuable without producing something, without making ourselves more attractive and fit, without um, without doing something actually that we can really kind of show off to the world. Suddenly we start putting the energy back into this internal world and nourishing spaces inside that for many of us are really, really sorely undernourished. It gives us the capacity to self-validate. This has been a big lesson for me. I'm someone who is, I think we all are, but maybe especially so, very addicted to external validation. And as you can imagine, that starts to get us away from center, away from that authentic self. So I often like to distinguish early on the difference between a meditation practice and the meditative state. I'll be talking a little bit more about the meditation practice and giving you guys a template that everyone can take today and use on your own to guide your meditation practice. And a practice is anything that we do that's a means to an end. And sitting down in meditation regularly, it's going to be one of the main things that I will recommend, is to do it regularly, very consistently, even if you're just doing short practices. But when we show up and practice something regularly, it trains us, it retrains us. And when we sit down for the meditation practice, and I'll help, the template that I give you here will help you guide yourself through this. But when we sit down to practice, we don't, we understand that the practice is part of something bigger, is what I mean. And this is something that in our culture of instant gratification, this can be a really hard thing to develop patience around. When you sit and meditate, you may not feel that sense of stillness or harmony every single time. Probably won't. I don't. But just to show up and do the practice builds something inside of us. Right? Just the same way, if I went swimming in that lake, maybe yesterday, I just felt really great. And for whatever reason, I swam really well and it wasn't challenging and I swam fast. But today, for whatever reason, I didn't. But I showed up and I swam, and we know that the benefits are there, even if I don't feel amazing when I get out, right? It's the same thing with the meditation practice, except the benefits of meditation tend to be subtler than the benefits of some of our more external practices. And again, we're not necessarily getting all the same external validation or physiological results as we would for some kind of external action. And so sometimes it takes a little longer for us to really grasp what's shifting under the surface. But I promise that what's shifting under the surface is so powerful. And it shifts us in this inner place that affects everything else. So the meditation practice, we want to cultivate in a way that's consistent, where we keep showing up and we don't judge ourselves for any of our kind of one-off experiences. We trust that it's part of some bigger journey that we're on. The meditative state is something that is also described in a lot of different ways. I already gave one description of it earlier, or two, an experience of inner stillness or inner harmony. A sense that our energy isn't kind of pushing against the energy of reality, because that creates so much suffering and disturbance. There are lots of classical definitions of meditation, and I'll go into more of those in the 2020 Vision course, but I'll give you just a couple that I really love right here off the bat. And you can write these down, contemplate them, see if one really resonates with you. You could walk around and chew on these for a little while. You could ask questions about them, but here's just a couple that I really, really love. One, meditation is the experience of there being nothing missing and nothing extra. In the guided meditation at the beginning of this hour, I said early on, inhale in a way that embraces everything that is, and exhale in a way that releases any urge to control or change what is. But so often in life, what we're really doing is we're going around going, I'll inhale, I want to inhale some of this, but I actually don't want that, right? So saying that's extra. I don't really want that. So I'm going to try to kind of only inhale a little bit. See if I keep out the rest of reality that I don't feel like dealing with. And often we exhale in a way, or we let go in a way that tries to actually cling to some things. I actually don't want to let this go. I'll feel like something's missing if I let this go. And so we end up walking around life very protected and protective and And I am a huge, 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 huge advocate of healthy boundaries, right? Having a sense of, there is a sense that we do want to do everything that we're doing in a safe space that does have safe boundaries. That being said, when we sit and we meditate, what we come to learn is we are safe, right? Put yourself in a safe space to start with, right? I would recommend not starting your meditation practice necessarily in a crowded subway, right? Though you could absolutely experiment with that. Have a place that feels safe where you can go to, and then let yourself sit and notice when you're trying to protect yourself in just the way that you're sitting and breathing, right? Let all that go and cultivate a sense of trust that your inhales won't hurt you, that you can let it all in, and that your exhales won't be giving up something that you can't give up. And then when you experience the touch of the meditative state, and we don't have to be in some very deep otherworldly state of samadhi, or enlightenment to touch this. It's that sense. There's nothing missing here, and there's nothing extra. There's nothing wrong in this moment. I'm okay. And another of my favorite definitions of meditation, which I'll share with you today, is meditation is when you show up to connect with what you value most. So I'm going to go ahead and share with you something that I call the ABCs. And yeah, and then I'm going to talk a little bit more about how this works. I'm going to talk a little bit more about our attachments and our aversions and how meditation works with those. And then we'll chat a little bit. I'll open it up to you guys. Okay. So I'm going to share the screen so that I can show you this. Alrighty. So this is the ABCs, and I can share a link to this with all of you guys. I'll make a little note for myself in the chat box after this, and I can get it to you guys another way too if you need. It's really, really simple. So this is a simple template for self-guided meditation, and I created this. Let's see if we can make this. You can kind of see all of them here now. So I created this based on studying meditation in all these different traditions. And I found that there are certain things that are present in all the meditation practices that were really effective. And usually a bunch of other stuff was present too. And I just tried to strip it down to the basics. And so whatever kind of lineage you come from, whatever brings you to meditation, you can use this and really kind of customize it to create a meditation practice that feels really authentic for you, but that also feels not too complicated, something that you can memorize, right? They're alphabetized, and something that you can return to again and again. It's, simple enough to remember and open enough for you to insert into it what really matters to you. So the very first step of any practice, and this template could actually also be used for really any kind of spiritual practice that you do or energy practice that you do. The first thing that we got to do is arrive. And usually our physical body has showed will show up for the practice well. Actually, that's really challenging too, right? It's like most people come to me and say, well, my first issue is that I'm just not sitting down to meditate. And so for those who struggle with this, which is frankly most of us when we first want to start a meditation practice, I say, okay, don't worry about the other ABCs. Show up in the same space or where you can every day, just for a couple minutes, and sit there. Just be there. And meditation will start to happen, especially if you start to realize that when you arrive physically, you then also need to give yourself an opportunity to arrive emotionally, mentally, to let your energy settle and arrive. Most of us spend most of our time with kind of one part of us over here, one part of us remembering something that happened yesterday, another part of us all the way out the door into tomorrow. And so what does it feel like just to arrive? And if you really get this, you might not need the other steps, right? Each of these steps in a way is a practice just all on its own. If you could really just sit and arrive, that would kind of be it, right? Breathe is step B. This is a great thing to do once you arrive, something to center yourself on, something to center your experience on. Wow, the breath is powerful. We'll talk about it in the course. In my membership, we just did a whole month talking about the breath as a guru. It is, it's everything. It's our connection to the natural world all the time. I mean, we're always connected to the natural world, but when we remember our breath, we remember that connection. Each exhale is a gift to the atmosphere. We are contributing. We have the sense that as humans, we're just ruining the planet. Everything that we do is wrong, right? We're just a big mistake. We need to make a smaller footprint. We need to hide ourselves away in order to save the planet. I used to really feel this way. But just in the breath teaches us, no, honey. Yes, please, nature, I think, is saying, yes, please do your part to clean up your mess. But the breath says, remember, you are inherently a contributor to the health of the planet. That you breathing out carbon dioxide feeds the trees, feeds the atmosphere, something essential to the atmosphere, that we are co-creating reality together. And that we're not going to get to health by trying to tuck ourselves away, to shame ourselves out of nature. It doesn't work. And of course, with each inhale, we're receiving the gifts of nature. We get everything we need in the moment through the inhale, and we release everything that we don't need inside anymore in the exhale. It is so beautiful. There's a rhythm to the breath that I work with a lot in the way that I teach meditation and guide meditation. That is the pattern of a human animal. That is a natural rhythm. That's the right pace for you. And so returning to the rhythm of the breath, the feeling of the breath. Try this today. Try this week. Step C is really important. Connect to your care. And this is where we get in touch with our values. And I'll guide an exercise at the end of today that might get you a little bit into this, and we'll go really deeply into it in the January course. But like I said, meditation is where we show up for what matters. And if you want to study meditation in a more traditional lineage, right? The values of that lineage are baked into the practices. They're baked into the rituals. So for instance, I was part of a Tibetan Buddhist lineage. You show up, there's certain clothes you can wear or not wear. When you show up, you prostrate to the teacher when the teacher walks into the room 3 times. And you put yourself on the floor and you put your head on the ground. And then you get all the way up and you go back down. You do it 3 times. It's customary to give the teachers gifts and flowers, and then you study. When we do gatherings, you would study a particular Buddhist text, So we're always honoring the Buddha, and we are in a particular lineage with a person named Jason Kappa at the top of it, and we would honor him, and we would honor the different gurus from this particular lineage. There's symbolism in the colors of the robes, and the values, like what we care about, was totally integrated into the rituals. And by showing up and doing those things, by prostrating and giving the gifts, by studying these things with reverence, but I was subscribing to the values of that lineage. It took me a lot longer to figure that out and to kind of pull apart what the values of that lineage were from the rituals and from the practice. What I offer to people is the opportunity to, instead of just kind of dumping yourself into a practice and then later kind of figuring out what am I bowing to? I'm going to ask you guys right away to start to contemplate for yourself what you value. What do you care about? And then begin to build a practice that reflects those values, or to go out into the world. And when you do engage in other people's traditions or lineages, or you hear a song that you want to start singing and I want to sing this song every day as part of my spiritual practice, right? You'll recognize that the reason why you connected to it is because it speaks to your values. And so this is self-empowered practice and conscious, intentional practice. Not just, and again, this is how I started. This is how a lot of us start, and it's perfectly beautiful and fine. I mean, we're all born into traditions and lineages, or many of us, right? You have kind of DNA, this is fine. But for me, because of the kind of person that I am, and because of the world that we live in, and because of the kind of offering that I felt called to give, it's been really important for me to get clear on my own through my contemplation and my meditation and my personal experiences what I care about. And I will tell you, I have gone into spaces that in the past I would have just been like, oh yeah, this is fine. And now there's sometimes I go into spaces and I feel a boundary and I say, this is actually out of alignment with what I value in this way. And I'm not going to participate because of that. And that's self-empowered practice. So ABC, how would this work? Okay. If you got up yet tomorrow morning, you said, I'm going to meditate. Find a space, arrive into it. Maybe you end up kind of clearing that space, burning some incense or something, making it nice. Arrive into it, breathe, and then just take a moment. It's powerful for me to connect literally with my heart space. Just take a moment and connect to your care. That's what a value is, right? Something we care about. Not because somebody told us we should, not because it's a means to an end, but because this is inherently valuable. My two main values, truth and love. And they go together, I've found. I have other values that kind of fit under them, right? And this is something we'll do in the 2020 course, is you'll get clear about what yours are. But in the meantime, very simply, just connect to the feeling of care. I care. That's why I'm meditating. I care. And whatever it is that wakes up your care is a great place to start anchoring yourself and aligning your mind, your heart, and your body. So I'm actually not going to go too deeply into the rest of them, because this isn't, a foundations course. Really, A, B, and C are a lot. But I'll go ahead and tell you what these other steps are. Step D is actually often what people do mean when they say meditation. Step D is a practice. It's really an attention practice. It's where you direct your attention to something. Today, we directed our attention to the feeling of breathing. And then once I felt like we had all kind of arrived, I then gave you a touchstone, or a meditation object, as it's sometimes called, of an orb of light in your body. you could direct your attention to anything. And in the course, we'll explore different types of meditation touchstones, and you'll get to experience for yourself which ones work better or worse for you, what's more powerful for you. And but you could end up directing it to an image, a feeling, a mantra. And no matter what you connect it to, the whole idea is that with as little fuss as possible, when you notice that the attention has strayed, with as little fuss as possible, return the attention. Super simple. I believe that a meditation practice that's just about directing your attention is not nearly as powerful as one that is surrounded on either side by these other steps, because it can be really easy to forget that we're not just a mind. Because this is really a kind of a mental practice, right? And the other steps help us remember that, we're whole humans. We got a lot more than brains. Step E is to exist as awareness. This is a step which I'll talk about in more detail, but in the course. But it's where we actually just allow ourselves to be, because that's another great definition of the meditative state that I should have said at the beginning. One of my favorite definitions of the meditative state, this comes from one of my great teachers, Adyashanti. He says, meditation is letting everything be as it is. And I spoke to this when I said nothing missing, nothing extra, right? It's okay. Reality is okay. I'm okay. And I don't have to fix reality, and I don't have to fix myself to fit into reality. It is. We are. And that is more than enough. Step F is to finish in a clear way. So I told you that we had rituals in my Tibetan Buddhist lineage. There's certain ways that we began our sessions and certain ways that we ended our sessions. And there's something important about understanding that our rituals should have and your meditation practice is very much a sacred ritual, should have a beginning, middle, and end. And if we don't have a really clear ending, we can end up letting some of the energy of our meditation kind of leak out, right? Or it doesn't feel complete. And so you want to give yourself the opportunity to create a little finishing ritual for yourself. Today, I rang the singing bowl. If you meditate with me, I'll always ring this beautiful singing bowl here 3 times at the beginning and 3 times at the end. Very simple ritual for us. And I encourage people to bring their hands together and bow at the end. And when I go on retreats with my teacher, Adyashanti, we do this. And he was in a Zen tradition for a long time, but he is now, like me, sort of likes to speak from sort of outside of tradition and just inside of the human experience without any of the dogma or hierarchy that often comes with other traditions. But we both love this as a very simple, very human feeling way to end our practices, this hands together and bowing. It just feels right. But for you, experiment with what feels right and what gives you closure at the end of your practice. And then finally, step G, go forth. Step G is the rest of life. It's the other 23 hours and 45 minutes of your day that you're not sitting in meditation, but you are an ambassador for meditation. You are the representative of these practices, and you are the embodiment of your values, of what you care about when you get up and you go forth. So those are the ABCs. And like I said, if you're new to all of this, start with A. Spend a little time this weekend just making a nice little spot for yourself that calls to you, a space that you would like to arrive into, a space that feels safe and quiet-ish, all within the boundaries of our actual reality, and clean-ish. And Allow yourself to arrive into it. Pay attention to your breath. That's step B. And spend a little time connecting to what really matters to you, what you really care about. And I'll put into the chat box right now a little link to that. There it is. That's the ABCs there as a Google Doc. And I'll share it with you guys elsewhere as well if you don't want to grab it from there. So in a couple minutes, I'm going to open it up to you guys. But I first just wanted to say a little bit about attachment and aversion. Um, One of my main source texts is called the Yoga Sutras, and it's really a text about meditation written by a fellow named Patanjali around the dawn of AD, around the dawn of this era. And he's an Indian sage, and he writes about meditation as the solution to our suffering. And he says that the experience of suffering is the experience of attachment and aversion. And this is one of the things that is just so powerful about meditation, is that it cultivates a sense of being the witness to our own experience so that we can start to see when we start to become conscious of attachments that were previously unconscious. And we become conscious, we begin to see with our own eyes aversions that before we were not conscious of. When I said in that first meditation, see if you can soften when you get the urge to attach, and see if you can soften when you get the urge to be averse or to push away. And when we do that time and time again, and we keep returning to a sense of trust in reality and trust in ourselves, trust in our being, what starts to happen is we start to see for ourselves the ways that we've been creating suffering for ourselves. There is some pain in life, period. It's the solstice. It reminds us that death is a part of life. Endings, right? Because love is reality, and because life is always change, sometimes we go through painful periods. That is normal. But what meditation offers us is the opportunity to shift and radically change our attachments and aversions and return to what we are in a prior place, a more original state than the one that conditioned itself to become attached and averse. And then we still go through life having the tough days and the glorious days. But we no longer are so attached to those glorious days and no longer so terrified or thrown off by the difficult days, so that what we get to do is we get to flow through life. We get to accept that there's gifts even in death. Food is a gift of death. Even if you're a vegetarian, it's a sacred offering that something gave its life for you to have life. And Life wants you to live. Life offers it to you. It's a gift, right? But because of our attachments and aversions, we tend to always be seeing life in a skewed way. And this skewed way makes us afraid of things that actually are here to nourish us or challenge us or grow us. And it makes us afraid. It makes us engage with them in an embattled way. And then we're at war with life, and life always wins. And then the attachment side, right? We're afraid. That's where attachment, unconscious attachment is where we're so afraid of losing something that we can't see that sometimes to release something is the only way to get healthy. Or sometimes to see, oh, I can sit in meditation for 10 minutes without having that cup of coffee or whatever it is. Maybe I'm stronger than I thought. Right? So all the lessons that come from that and all of the power that we get back. And again, like this, since we're not battling reality, that reality, come to see reality loves us. It has our best interests at heart. It is us. And then no matter what else is coming at you, you can be in flow. The last thing I'll say about this is just, one way to think about unconscious attachment is that we identify something. Unconscious attachment is when we give a lot of power to something outside of us. And when we start to see that, the power returns to its source, which is right inside of you, in that orb, in the center of you. Aversion is kind of like walking around with a shadow maker, so that it keeps us in denial about certain aspects of reality. It keeps us refusing to look at certain aspects of what really is. And then we say, oh, that doesn't exist, right? But really what it is, it's like we're going around life always casting a shadow on this kind of thing. It doesn't make that thing not true. It actually means that without us being able to see it and shine conscious light on it, that thing living in the shadows is going to affect us in all sorts of weird backdoor wonky ways and then we don't get to actually have an empowered relationship with anything we're attached to or anything that we're averse to. And as I said before, there is such thing as healthy boundaries, right? Saying, I'm not going to engage with that thing right now. I'm not going to go into that space right now. But we can't actually have healthy boundaries if what we're afraid of or what we're trying to protect ourselves from is in the shadows. And instead of attachments, like I have to have this, right? If we start to become aware of what we need, crave, and desire, what we authentically really want to say yes to in our lives, right? Again, if we're so attached to something, I don't get the space to let something be out there. And again, to authentically relate to it, to go and authentically request the universe to give it to me, to like ask for what we actually need and want. So meditation is the beginning of that power. It's the beginning of relating to everything and everyone around us in a healthy, honest way. It's how we get back to truth. So I think before I open it up, okay, I'm right on the dot, 1 p.m. Before I open it up to you guys, let's do one just very short practice so that you guys have just a little moment to arrive and to let some of what I offered up to you just kind of settle in, and then we'll share a little bit. Okay. So you'll hear the singing bowl again, just for like a 2-minute meditation. Arrive. Allow all the parts of you to settle into this moment in this body. Breathe and feel how the breath begins to harmonize what is inside of you and begins to reconnect you with nature and all that is surrounding and embracing you. For today's exercise, here I want you to just take a moment to check in with where you were a year ago. Solstice 2018. And as you look back at the arc of this past year, first, I want you to see something that you've done a really amazing job with. Somewhere where you've grown, transformed. Is there something that you let go of that was very difficult to let go of? Is there something that you've accepted or received that was difficult to accept or receive? Now breathe as you do this reflection. I just naturally put my hand on my heart when I started giving the exercise. Maybe you want to put a hand on your belly or your heart. Honor this journey you've been on. And then arrive right here into the now, the present again. But a little more whole, because in that reflection, we just honored parts of ourselves that needed to be seen. And now I want you to see yourself a year from now on the solstice, and don't sell yourself short, but I want you to see yourself empowered, living your values. See yourself aligned with your truth, immersed in love. Honor this self that is calling you. Honor this journey that your future self has been taking you on. Again, arriving back into the present moment. Feel the power of integrating past self and future self with the realest self there is, the present self. Okay. All right. Thanks for that. I was going to do that exercise at the end, but I thought it would be good to just get in there, and this way, anyone who would like to share can. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to stop the recording, um, and and so as people come on, you won't be on the recording. Only the seven of us that are here, the six of us that are here, will it'll be a closed circle. I think this is a better way to do it. So, goodbye, everyone who is watching the recording. If we get into any good Q&A here, I'll add that information for you. Otherwise, everybody have happy holidays. I'm going to stop the recording.